All right, my final video. It's my sixth one. Sixth video in a row just to try to catch up to some of these videos I got going on here. Man, give a guy a break. Rogue government prepares for heated conflict, and historical cycles point to coming clash. This is an article from InfoWars written by Daniel Taylor. And whenever I see stuff about cycles and things, it really catches my interest. It sparks my interest. And because I like studying that kind of stuff, to see these cyclical patterns that just let you know, no matter how you think you may know something, the cycle doesn't care, and it's coming, and it will steamroll you when it gets here if you don't prepare for it. And so this is about that, and I said, well, let me take a little read. Let me have a little read of this, and it was interesting to say the least. Establishment behaving like a crazed psychopath that knows he is about to be brought to justice. A string of scandals involving the federal government is further demonstrating the illegitimacy and hypocrisy of the power structure. Historical cycles point to massive upheaval. Ordinary Americans, and it just gives a little background, and there's links to everything that I'm going to say that you can go verify this. Ordinary Americans are being targeted while known terrorists are escorted through security. Check, that's a fact. Kidnappers, rapers, and murderers are being released from prison. Check, that just happened recently. Department of Justice, all these illegals, some of the worst offenders, let them go. Get them out of prison. That just happened. Check. An action sanctioned by the President of the United States. The BATF allows guns to find their way to Mexican drug lords, while the federal government is fighting to disarm the American citizens. Go look at Fast and Furious, how they did that. Okay. Mega banks launder billions of dollars worth of drug money. That's check. So many of those stories have come out. No, this isn't a dystopic nightmare. This is our present day reality that we all must face. The establishment is behaving like a crazed psychopath that knows he is about to be brought to justice. Nearly every agency of government has acquired some form of armaments in the past several years. Police departments across the country are getting mine-resistant vehicles. That's in the news lately. Homeland Security is acquiring billions of rounds of ammunition. The Department of Agriculture recently requested body armor and submachine guns. I saw the advertisement on the government website. I saw it myself. Department of Agriculture? Many other instruments of war have been stored and deployed. To an outside observer watching these trends, a grim picture is being painted. Each case in and of itself may not add up to much, but when all of the data points are put together, we can begin to see a pattern of deliberate action taking place for something that they're preparing for. What exactly is the establishment preparing for? Historical cycles may give us a clue. Authors William Strauss and Neil Howe document these cycles in their 1997 book titled The Fourth Turning. The book reminds us that the old adage of there is nothing new under the sun is truly rooted in fact. The issues that we are facing today, with new faces and slightly different angles, are the same realities that our ancestors dealt with during their times of crisis. Quote, history is seasonal. Remember the other day I talked about this seasons, the 4 seasons? History is seasonal, if you will, writes Strauss and Howe. And winter is coming. Like nature's winter, the secular winter can come early or late. A fourth turning can be long and difficult, brief but severe, or perhaps mild. But, like winter, it cannot be averted. It's coming. It must come in its turn. As a society, we are sensing the coming winter and hopefully preparing accordingly, just as past generations did at their time of crisis. Government is certainly preparing for massive upheaval just in time for the arrival of this fourth turning in that particular cycle, the winter section. What is a turning? As Strauss and Howe point out, history is made up of highs and lows. During a high, government and institutions are built up while values are established and commonly held. Another generation is born, and these institutions are questioned and undermined. Then an unraveling era unfolds. As Strauss and Howe write, both the demand and supply of social order are falling. This is the autumnal quadrant of the seculum, when vines luxuriate, fruits spoil, leaves fall, and the respect for life's fundamentals reappears. Whew, glad I pressed that mute button. You might have thought a bomb just went off when I sneezed. So, another generation is born, and these institutions are questioned and undermined. Then an unraveling era unfolds. As Strauss and Howe write, quote, both the demand and supply of social order are falling. This is the autumnal quadrant of the seculum, when vines luxuriate, fruits spoil, leaves fall, and the respect for life's fundamentals reappears. A seculum, which is divided into 4 seasons, so to speak, culminating in a crisis, is the average length of a long human life, after which there is a societal, quote, reset. A fourth turning appears when issues that have been boiling without resolution for years explode. Subliminal fears become urgent, heading into the fourth turning. Quote, political and economic trust will implode. Real hardship will beset the land, with severe distress that could involve questions of class, race, nation, and empire. The very survival of the nation will feel at stake. Sometime before the year 2025, America will pass through a great gate in history, commensurate with the American Revolution, the Civil War, and twin emergencies of the Great Depression and World War II. End quote. Fourth turnings can happen in more than one nation at a time, by the way. And I want you to keep that in mind when you realize how America's dollar has been the world's reserve currency, and now the rest of the world's running from it, but there are still a number of countries that are attached to our U.S. dollar. So this makes perfect sense with them. Fourth turnings can happen in more than one nation at a time, and because of the problems that are coming with our dollar, other nations will be dragged right down with us. As the world has become extremely connected and globalized, most of the world may enter into a fourth turning cycle at the same time, exacerbating its impact on everybody. During these turnings, an entrenched elite fight tooth and nail to remain in power. Why do you think all these absurd laws, National Defense Authorization Act allows indefinite detention, Obamacare had almost nothing to do with Obamacare, more control, all these crazy laws that they get passed? What do you think they're there for? They've passed things that nothing came of it. Well, yeah, it was a nasty law, but what, how about the Patriot Act? The National Security Agency, the whole spying organization. They need to know and be able to deal with people rapidly who start to protest the elite and the power structure. That's what all these things were set up for. And the worst part about this is you and I, via taxes, etc., have paid for everything that they've done. Every one of those billion rounds of ammunition that the Department of Homeland Security bought, you paid for. Every bulletproof checkpoint that they also purchased, you paid for. The armed thugs that went over to the Bundy Ranch in Nevada, or was that Arizona? You paid for their guns, you paid for their vehicles, you paid for their gas. And when the big uprising comes in this country, how they deal with you will be far worse than any of those things. And just remember, you paid for it. So to finish here, Individual choices will alter the outcome is the final paragraph. As Strauss and Howe point out, the outcome of this season of radical change and potential destruction is up to us. This generation, just as America's founders did, will provide the heroes and legends for the next. Your actions and choices during this time will alter the outcome of this historical time period and set the cultural agenda for the next cycle to begin. Your contribution can be as simple as making change in your personal life and aligning yourself with right principles and truth. It may be as big as speaking out on important issues and spreading ideas for change. An interesting quote here, Karl Rove once said of the elite, quote, "We're history's actors, and you, all of you, will be left to just study what we do." Sounds like a Karl Rove quote. The truth is that we, the people, influence history. This, not Karl Rove, no. We are the individuals who either accept or reject the elite's designs for our future. Now that's true, but when you have this government that just writes up laws and passes them and then tells you, hey, it's law, it's on paper, you got to follow it. Yeah, but I told everyone, I called my congressman and my neighbor called and his neighbor called and he told you not to pass that. But they passed it, so you got to obey the law. It's the law, right? It's only the law until the people decide it's not the law and or they don't care about any law. And when they get into that mentality, none of the laws mean anything anymore. So the elite are the ones who are going to, as it says, they will fight tooth and nail to remain in power. And they're going to continue because that's exactly what they've been doing. And they're just going to keep stepping it up to try to remain in power. So the more they step it up, the more freedoms, the more rights you have get trampled, which becomes something for you to get angry about, which you get upset about, which means you start to act upon things because now you're frustrated. Now you're pissed. Now you got to do something. And they're basically causing the stirring. They're stirring the pot. But they have to stir the pot if they want to remain in power because they have to keep the control mechanisms that they've put in place all of these years. The fake voting machines and they got to keep all that going, and that gives us the power. That way you can never vote us out. We'll always have a Democrat, we'll always have a Republican that are our choice that we put in front of you that you vote for. And we're going to do it again in 2016, and we'll keep doing it until we can't. And the we can't part is when the people probably overthrow them. Not by voting. Again, you can't use one of their tools to vote them out. The tool is designed to never vote them out. It is only designed to pick the two winners, one or the other, Democrat or Republican, that they chose, who will continue every agenda they've had. The same people who are in charge of major areas of our government, from regulations, housing, the BLM, right, the Bureau of Land Management, these are all part of the club members. Doesn't matter if Obama was in office, prior to him, George Bush, they keep the people in these other areas to continue doing the agenda. Doesn't matter who's in the office, the Oval Office just keeps going. That's how you can really tell if the guy you voted for really is about change. If you see them putting bankers to head the Security and Exchange Commission, putting a banker in charge of the CFTC to regulate commodities, right? And all these other organizations, do you really think that was the right choice? The answer is no. But the average person doesn't even know to look at those things. They're focused on the basic stuff. How is he going to make my life better? What is he going to do to help me get more money out of my paycheck, not pay extra tax or whatever? And they'll just lie to the people to tell the people the most important things that they need to hear. And then when you vote for me, trust me, you don't have to follow me. Don't follow my track record. I'm your guy. Just know you're a Republican. I'm a Republican. We got this. Oh, okay, cool. I'll go back to my job. I won't turn on the TV anymore. I don't need to know what the president's saying or doing or even verify because he said on this huge list of things he's going to do. And then maybe a few years later you decide one day just to see and you realize he hasn't done a damn one of them. And you feel about this big because he was my party. I'm a Republican. He's a Republican. Oh man, and then your Democrat friends punching you in the face. I told you, sending you the emails. Hey, what about this? Stop sending me this, man. Stop sending me the emails, man. Your ego's hurt and bruised. And then what'll happen? 2016, the other one, you had a Republican, now a Democrat will win. Oh, you had a Democrat, now a Republican will win. And then you switch roles. Hey, your guy won. Look at all the promises he made. And then you start emailing him. Hey, what about the hey? And then he tells you, stop emailing me, man. Leave me alone. And this just keeps going on. No one becoming any wiser, saying, why in the hell are we voting for either of these two parties? When's the last time someone voted for the person and not the party? Me. The only problem was there ain't no persons that were eligible to be president that I could vote for. And if that's the case, I will not vote. And don't you dare even think for 1 second I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils. Because if I vote for your guy, then the other guy doesn't make it. I pissed off those people. But if I vote for that guy, I pissed off you. And you're trying to convince me your guy's the lesser of two evils. Even while acknowledging that he's definitely got some evil. Just not as much as that guy. And I sit here and say, why can't we have a guy with little to no evil? And there actually are some, but they don't seem to be selected. The Congress just doesn't seem to select that particular Democrat or that particular Republican who would do a fine job. They always seem to get the guy that they can manipulate and will do their bidding. No questions asked. Keep the old club, well-oiled machine going. So this is one of those things. Cycles are cycles are cycles. And if every time the sun came up and you watered a plant, you noticed it grew a tiny bit. But during the night, it didn't grow. And you watch the cycle over and over and over again. You realize every time as long as this thing's got water, even at night or day, it only grows during the day when the sun's out. But it never grows at night. You could be a genius, right? Way back in the day. I've found out that this plant only grows when the sun comes out, and that's a cycle. So I can determine the next cycle, the next cycle, the next cycle, and no one's going to be able to argue with me and tell me I'm wrong because I have history showing this cycle does that. Now that's a cycle we all know about, plants, right? Just because the cycle takes maybe hundreds of years to complete and start anew doesn't mean it's not there, right? If a tree falls in the forest and and no one was there to hear it, did it make a sound? Yes, it did make a sound. Doesn't matter if you were there or not to see it. It still happened, right? The cycle is coming and it will steamroll you whether you care or not. And I'm telling you now, this is definitely going to be economic in nature, for sure. Gold and silver is your only protection. That's pretty cut and dry. Take care.